For this lesson, I'm going to be talking about rational exponents. If you remember, rational just means we're talking about a fraction. So we're going to be talking about fractions as exponents. For a warm-up, just a review of what we talked about the last two lessons. When multiplying, what do we do with exponents? Well, when they have the same base, we can add them. And when we divide, as long as they have the same base, we can subtract their exponents. That should just be a quick review of something you already know. So our first concept is to talk about what something raised to the 1/2 power is. And so for any non-negative real number, it's important that it is not negative. Okay, you can't take the square root of a negative number, at least not with what we know right now. So for any non-negative real number b, b raised to the 1/2 is the same thing as the square root of b. So raising something to the 1/2 power is the same thing as taking a square root. So what we can do, we can rewrite 16 raised to the 1/2 power as the square root of 16. And no matter how you would evaluate this in your calculator, 16 to the 1/2 or square root of 16, you would still get the answer of 4. Same thing over here, 38 raised to the 1/2 power, that's just the same thing as saying the square root of 38. Anything raised to the 1/2 power, you can just rewrite it as instead say I'm taking the square root of it. So if you look at our first example, we want to write each expression in radical form, or if it's already in radical form, we want to write it in exponential form. So we're just switching forms. We're not evaluating, we're just switching forms. Well, how would I rewrite 25 raised to the 1/2? Well, that would just be the square root of 25. Anything raised to the 1/2, I just take the square root of it. So how would I rewrite the square root of 18 in exponential form? Well, it's square root, so I just have 18 raised to the 1/2 power. Raising something to the 1/2 power just means you're taking the square root. Taking the square root of something just means you're raising it to the 1/2 power. Now here's where it gets a little tricky, but not really that hard. We've got 5x to the 1/2. You need to think about what is being raised to the 1/2 power. Well, because this is not in parentheses, x is the only thing being raised to the 1/2 power. So I am not taking the square root of the 5, but I am taking the square root of the x. Notice, if there were parentheses, everything would have been under the square root, but here it's only x being raised to the 1/2 power. Now in D, we've got the square root of 8 and p, which means I need to put 8 and p in parentheses because I took the square root of all of that, and I'm going to have all of that raised to the 1/2 power. Okay, notice the difference. Here, the 1/2 only applied to the x, so I had 5 square root x. Here, everything was under the square root, so I need to make sure I put parentheses around it before I raise it to the 1/2 power.